Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 719 Southeast Forest Glen Road here in Estacada. We're located at the front of the home here just beyond the porch. We have a 3-inch ABS cleanout as our point of access. Insert the camera and check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Currently have water running. Here we go. And I just zeroed the camera counter out right at the base of the cleanout there. And at the end, when we get the line totally drained, I'll run the camera backwards. We're sitting about 8 feet out from the foundation. I'll make sure we get all the pipe on the exterior here. Alright, makes transition here from 3-inch ABS, looks like over to 6-inch 3034 PVC pipe. So far here we're looking pretty darn good. I think we have a little bit of standing water here in this PVC section. We'll see how that all drains out at the end though. Where I typically start to see toilet paper collect in lines is once you've got about an inch of standing water static with no water running at all, for at least a 5-foot section of pipe. That's about right where I start to see toilet paper collect. Now, it looks like a lot of this PVC pipe here, though, has settled to a certain extent and has some standing water in it. So we'll see how that drains out. And right here we have reached the main lateral, 51 feet. I'm going to do locates real quick just to verify where this is at, and then we're going to let the line drain out here for a few minutes. Alright, located the camera head successfully out at the main on Forest Glen. We are down to just a slight trickle at this point. I haven't had really any water moving through the clean out here for a couple minutes now. That might just be the little bit of remnants trying to make its way out of the belly there. Oh, I apologize. No, we do have a small trickle moving through the clean out here. More than likely it's a toilet flapper that's not closing off all the way. There's nothing I can do to make that stop. And it's really not enough that it's going to exaggerate the amount of water in this belly a whole lot. So the belly dissipates out here at about 40, pretty much right at 48 feet. We're going to go kind of slow through this. We're not sloshing the water in and out of it. We'll let it settle into place. So right here we are at an inch of standing water. Water line is going up over the camera. My camera is exactly 1 inch tall. So once that water line goes up over the top of the camera lens, we're at an inch of standing water. And it's right at an inch. Looks like most of the belly is at an inch of standing water. At the very end where it starts to taper off, it drops down below this, but we got a pretty consistent inch of standing water here. That doesn't necessarily mean it's just going to back up on you tomorrow. A lot of times bellies are a progressive issue. They slowly build debris up until a blockage occurs. But with the amount of water that's in there, static, I've got to recommend a spot repair on it. If a repair is not done, what I would recommend doing, bellies are hugely affected by homeowners' living habits. A lot of times a belly can exist down there without causing problems as long as the homeowner's not putting things down there that shouldn't be going down the line, like paper towels or tampons or cooking oil down the kitchen sink. Those are items that are going to hang up in a spot like this very easily. Regular old toilet paper, although this is at an inch of water, is where I typically start to see toilet paper collect. That's more so toilet paper that's not folded but is balled up. Now, either way, it's enough water that can catch debris and cause buildup, so I've got to recommend a correction here. If you don't do a repair, though, just rescope it in a year and keep an eye on it. At a year mark, you'll get a good idea of how much debris is hanging up here based on your living habits. But the living habits do have a lot to do with it. Unfortunately, once you get to around that inch mark, that's basically where toilet paper will hang up there, whether you want it to or not. Alright, I pushed the camera out, threw out that belly to map it out while the camera was paused there. I got the whole thing mapped out. I've got a picture of it. With the rainstorm we had today, those paint markings aren't going to last very long. We're about 10 feet deep. The belly starts right at the driveway skirt, about 1.5 feet before the street edge or the curb, and extends out. Most of it's underneath the roadway, but we're looking at 10 feet deep at the start, right around 9 feet, 7 inches at the end of the line, or at the end of the belly anyway. Now it's down there a ways. Which unfortunately is a costly repair to do. But because it's all in the roadway, I would contact the city and find out whether or not the city, a lot of, especially smaller towns, the city actually accept responsibility for the line once you're in the right-of-way or at the curb. So that's definitely worth looking into. Anyway, at this time, there's not so much debris hung up in that belly there that at this point that we're concerned about a blockage occurring. The problem is debris building up slowly but surely over time. So line is functioning at this time, but is draining slowly due to that belly. It's not that it's not functioning, it's just with that amount of water in there, the likelihood for debris buildup is fairly high. So if you're watching what's going down the line really carefully, only putting folded toilet paper down the pipe, not balled up like a softball, all those things will help everything float out to the main like you want them to. Like I said, it's something that at this point is functioning. So you can, if you would like to go for it and live with it, I would just recommend keeping an eye on it. I'd rescope it in about a year. Make sure you're not getting any major debris buildup that needs to be jetted out of the sewer line. Now we do have some standing water here going back towards the home. And that just looks like a little bit of debris hung up on the sidewall there. And at this point here, we're well within the home. So we're going to reel on out. We'll take a look at this belly here right off the bat. Those little danglies hanging off the pipe there, I don't see any large bushes out here that seem to be capable of putting anything or any roots into the line like that. So that right there appears to either be excess pipe glue or a plastic burr from when the pipe was cut. The color of that, the shape of it, all that is not indicative of roots. It kind of looks like a root. I've done about 15,000 sewer scopes. I've seen a lot of roots. That is just not looking like a root. We have a very similar situation right here too, where something's caught on it, but again, I don't see anything out here that would be capable of putting roots through the line up that close to the house. We're underneath the porch at that point. Our standing water starts here going about 2 feet back towards the house from the clean out. At its deepest point here, the water line is just to the bottom of the camera lens. Now we're up to about a ½ inch of water here. But it's a very, very short little belly. It's not one that's terribly concerning. Although you can see that the water is murky and dirty with junk. Most of that, though, is due to, looks like grease going down the line. This little item dangling from up here, you know, these could, it's possible they're roots. I just don't know if there's any bush out here that could actually get roots into the line, unless these joints were dry fit, not glued shut. I just don't see anything out here. I'm going to locate and see where this is at real quick. But in total here, the belly starts at 2 feet and extends out here to, I mean, it's a 2-foot section of pipe, basically. It's very, very short. That is not one that I am all that concerned about causing problems. All these danglies hanging from the joint. This spot right here looks more like a root intrusion that's come through. That water's dangling, or it's dangling down into the water line and stops there, which roots generally do. Now I'm going to locate and see where this is at. It's very difficult, though, with some of the debris buildup in here. And a couple of these spots back here, these look more like plastic burrs than they do. Most of that junk caught at this joint right here is just debris that's come down the line. There's a little tiny thing sticking out that it hung up on. And then this guy here, for the most part, that is just looking like some debris that hung up. There's just, we're not seeing enough here to really be able to discern whether that's a root or not. There's a lot of stuff like hair and dental floss, tampon strings, all kinds of stuff that can go down and get caught on a joint and mimic what a root looks like. All right, I had to push a little bit further into the line from when I paused the camera. Right here, we're underneath the porch, about halfway. If you're looking at the whole concrete pad in total, we're about halfway through the concrete pad going back toward the house. And we're at 1 foot 8 inches deep, which is very shallow. The shallower the line is, the more more capable roots are of getting to it, because they don't have to travel very deep. This is a tricky one, because they could be roots. Generally, though, it takes a much larger bush. I mean, all we have out here are these teeny tiny little plants, and something that looks like something out of a swamp. I forget what they're called here. Cattails. It just seems unlikely for those to have made their way into the sewer line. This one right here is the one that looks the most like a root. Unfortunately, with the junk that's collected up over the top of it, and then these other two spots back here, this one right here, I mean, that just looks like a plastic burr that has caught a piece of debris coming down the line. But they're very hard to discern, and given where they're located at, it's a very tough call to make. They're not looking at, usually roots come through, you generally more than one strand coming through like that, and they flare out at the end. This one looks similar to that. There's just enough junk over the top of them that it's very difficult to discern what that is. So at this time, without being able to confirm that that is definitely roots, and given the fact that we don't have any larger plants, bushes, or trees out here that seem like they would be even capable of getting that far, the depth is at a point where a small bush could definitely intrude through the line. Everything out here is teeny tiny. The only way to really confirm that that is roots or not would be to jet or auger the line, cut whatever that is out of there, and re-scope it in time to see if it's roots or not. You'll have stuff that will grow back. I don't want to tell someone to start tearing up their patio unless, I can definitely confirm what the heck's going on here. No, I am slightly suspicious this is roots. I apologize to keep going back over it again. It's a tough one to discern there. So at this time, I'm not recommending a repair there. The standing water that's there, it's a 2-foot long belly with about just under a ½ inch of standing water. It's nothing I would recommend tearing up a porch for. However, roots will be a reason to get something repaired, though. At this time, I cannot tell whether that is a root intrusion or not. There's about 3 of them there, between about 2 feet and 5 feet. So right now, we have adequate flow to the main lateral. It's functioning but draining slowly due to the belly. But the line is functioning, as we don't have a whole lot in the way of debris buildup. But if you get enough stuff building up in that belly, that's where that becomes an issue. So I do recommend that be corrected. Contact the city, find out if they're responsible for the street portion of the sewer line. And then this root issue, or possible root issue, is a tough one. I'll try and go home and review the video with better lighting and a bigger screen. But there's just, with the junk that's collected over the top of them there, it's almost impossible to discern between roots or hair or a bunch of other things that get put down pipes all the time. I would recommend a re-scope after any repair work is done to make sure it was done correctly.